Yeah, Betsy, you let us know.
Hey everyone, we're back with episode 18 of Simplified Health. Juggy, what's going on today? Give me something
Oh,
good. Start it off
r-
good.
rest. I'm in a phase right now where I need a ton of rest. I had a really busy weekend, 5 shifts at the old restaurant. I was on my feet the entire time, moving. There were stairs involved. I was just exhausted. So I did Friday night, all of Saturday, which is 2 shifts, and then all of Sunday, which was another 2 shifts. 5 shifts in total. Monday, I was just out. One more thing I could say though, a term I like to use called emptying the tank. After a super busy weekend like I just had, those 5 shifts, I was able to return to my old watering hole, Casey's Tavern. They had karaoke on Sunday night, first time before the pandemic, and I was jamming. It was so much fun. And the term emptying the tank means I'm exhausted as it is, but I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna go out there and I don't care how tired I am, I'm just gonna go. And that's what I did.
I
And
really thought you
Monday
were about to say that you were able to take a nice big shit after all of that. To like go into
that
the
was
whole
Monday.
watering hole and all right.
Yeah.
So basically you emptied the tank by having a good time. You went
Yeah.
out.
And knowing that I was already exhausted, like, the smart thing to do is just to go home, put the feet up, all that stuff. But this was a special occasion. I figured, you know what, there's not too many times where something like this is going to happen. So it was nice. It was nice to see old friends. It was nice to see my old DJ and stuff. And it was nice to just have a good time. So it was
That
really
is.
nice. Monday, I left it open. I just wanted to make sure that I had nothing to do, nothing to worry about. And I stayed in bed most of the day. I was completely exhausted. So today my legs are a little sore, but that's about it.
Yeah, man, that restaurant shit ain't no joke.
It is not.
It's a
No
lot of work.
breaks. Yeah, no breaks. So
So I bet you got a good night's sleep after all of that, huh?
I did. Well, how was yours? How was your time between this? Anything
Yeah,
exciting happen in your life?
I have been relaxing. I currently am
Good.
just working on school wise, I'm working on analyzing data for a project that was done a couple of years ago to hopefully get a publication out of it with the American Heart
Hmm,
Association. So
that's
currently
big.
yeah, it's decent. It's actually a project related to statins, which a large percentage of the American population are on statins. It's a cholesterol lowering drug. And so basically, we'll talk about it another time. It's pretty
Yeah.
intricate data. It's a little complicated, but
So you
in
were
any
busy
case,
doing I'm like research project stuff. I'm assuming it's college related, or is that something that you are trying to do on your own?
yeah, it's related to, I guess we can say, some of my grad assistant duties, even though technically I'm on summer
Okay.
break. You're kind of always really doing stuff for the lab, trying to get in. I have a deadline on the 10th. So when you're in school, when you're getting a PhD, I should say, and sometimes
Hmm.
even masters, there really is technically no break. We're always working through the summer, but my workload is 1,000 times % lighter than it was a couple of months ago. So, with
That's
that being
good.
said, I've been also able to go boating. I've been able to go to the beach. I've been chilling hard, and I freaking love it.
That's good.
It's a nice escape, a nice change of pace. I've been going to
Do,
Home Depot a lot. Love Home Depot. That's my spot.
oh yeah. I need a new door somewhere on this
Door.
house. Yeah, I think it's because of the warping, the wood, and it's been super hot the past 3 days,
Yeah,
which is
everything
another reason why I was
expands.
exhausted. So yeah, I think there's something going on there. So I'll be going to Home Depot myself. But did you feel tired after your project stuff? Don't you feel like a different, not like physically, like if I'm on my feet and I'm up all day and, like, for example, it's just like hiking, but I have to take orders on top of that. So I was physically exhausted, but that's something that might have a different type of tired if you're doing a lot of research and you're staring at screens and books and words and writing and like, mentally, you're probably exhausted, no?
Yeah, absolutely. It's mentally taxing, especially when I'm on my computer up until, you know, 11 o'clock at night, just staring at a screen, looking at numbers, numbers, numbers. It's pretty awful, but I do something to, I turn off my blue light. So at the very least, even though I'm staring at my computer a lot, I don't have that factor that is going to potentially affect my sleep. So, with
Hmm.
that being said, let's just say right now, today's topic is going to be all about sleep, all
You
about
said the S
improving
word.
sleep habits.
Yeah.
What are the dangers of sleep deprivation? And how we can, again, like I said, how we can improve our sleep just by doing minor things before we go to bed or within the hours that are leading up to our bedtime.
Yeah. Have you ever met anybody who has like a problem with too much sleep? Like, dude, I've been getting way too much sleep, man. I'm sorry. I'm so stressed out with all the sleep that I'm getting. I'm getting pissed off at all these
Believe it or
Z's that
not,
I'm catching and dreams that I'm having. It's like, do you ever hear that?
actually, I'm not going to lie. That was me
Okay.
a year ago.
Aha. Okay.
I used to get anywhere from 10 to 11, about 11 hours of sleep a night.
And that's like technically oversleeping.
I don't, so for me, I didn't really think that it was oversleeping. I think what was happening was at that point in my life, I was getting my master's, I was working on a thesis, and everyone had always said, "Oh, when I was getting my master's, I didn't sleep." I'm like, I need to sleep. It's not like I sleep through an alarm. It's not like I'm waking up and then I'm going back to bed. I would just be flat out knocked out for anyway, it could have been 12 hours on some nights too.
Mm-hmm.
And that just for I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell if it was making me feel more groggy or I just needed it. So I continued to ride that wave for a few years. And even since
Mm-hmm.
I was little, I always slept a lot. But now I've realized that, and they say that with age, you don't need as much sleep. So, so research does show that older adults don't need as much sleep. And while I'm still a child, I have been able to cut my sleep down to around 8 hours on average. And I feel okay. I wake up, it's to me, I think it's all about getting that steady circadian rhythm. So how about
Mm-hmm.
you? What is your average sleep cycle?
Well, like currently, just because I like to like leave the restaurant at a reasonable hour so that I can actually get said sleep. And I have been having no trouble sleeping lately, just because when I go to bed tired, it's easy to just put your head in the pillow and just go. I have less problems when that happens. Um, I do. I've had this whole college experience where I had like, anywhere between 2 and 3 jobs at a time and a college workload, and I was commuting, and it was a complete nightmare because sleep was so sporadic. Um, I would have like a class on Monday at like 7 a.m. and then another class right back after that. And then I wouldn't have another class on Monday until like 6 p.m. So I'm like, okay, that's a huge block of time. I can do some homework and then I can actually go to my car and sleep. I can hang out in the commuter lot and just pass out. I'd bring blankets and pillows. It was a real thing. Like I didn't have a place to go up there. I wanted to save money by not living up there. So I lived here in Stanford. I'd travel up to New Haven, and that's what I would do for a while. And then
I
on the
used to do
weekends,
the
I would
good old
work.
car nap.
Oh yeah, exactly. It
Loved
was
it.
just fine by me. So
Just
as long as like in a
that
24-hour period, I was getting my 6 to 8 somehow, somewhere. I felt like I was okay, but that circadian rhythm that you had mentioned, it knocked mine completely off. And sometimes it made me, a little bit unsteady. It made me a little, you know, like lightheaded on days. I'd get headaches that I didn't know where they were coming from because I think that I'm getting enough sleep. Um, but yeah, when I talk to the doctors on campus and stuff, whenever they'd allow me to do that, because it was part of that's part of what you pay for. Um, I'd go up there and I would just talk to them about it, and they were just like, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah," and they mentioned circadian rhythm, and I was like, "Huh." So it is said that you're supposed to have those 6 to 8 hours in 6 to 8 hours. It really doesn't matter what time of day that you have it, but if you get to a point where you can't sleep for 12 hours and expect to stay up for the next 48 hours and be okay for those last 6 hours, that's not how it works. So as long as you have that rhythm, like you try to go to bed at the same time every night and you try to have this routine, that's leaning the more healthy style. So that's why we sleep at night. And then there's multiple reasons why that happens. It's timing and it's scheduled. So I feel a lot better whenever I take the doctor's advice and I say, yeah, I need to sleep at night. So I try to. But what about the people who have night jobs?
So
So
here's where we get into talking about shift work and also
yeah.
restaurant. When I used to bartend, I would be out until 2 bartending, and then I'd get home and I'd be wired for another 2 hours,
Yep.
regardless of the time. So
Loud
I
music,
also,
nightlife, you're up
yeah,
at like,
yeah,
two,
you're
3 in
just
the
ready.
morning.
And then like, I'll be laying in bed and I'd be like, fuck, I forgot to give that person a water. Fuck, I forgot to give them a
I do
lemon.
that all the time.
And it's just, you have all of these thoughts crossing your mind. And it's, to me, it's another form of shift work. So it's not necessarily like police officers or, nurses, any of those
Long
people.
shifts.
But at the end of the day, shift work throws off your circadian rhythm.
Yep.
And, if we could do it like we technically should be doing it, we'd be going to bed when it got dark out and we'd be waking up when it's light out. But based on the way our lifestyles are and the way that we've shifted as humans, that really isn't all that practical. But when we think about how we can, if we are a shift worker, optimize our sleep schedule in that sense, then we should really start focusing on keeping a consistent circadian rhythm. So if you, which is going to sound pretty shitty, but if you commonly go to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning on the weekend, instead of saying go to bed at 2 every single day, that's not really realistic for a lot of people because they may have a different job during the week. But try and ease back into your regular sleep schedule, maybe hour by hour. So maybe Sunday, try one, just try to not shock your body too much because that's actually going to make you have poor sleep. You're not going to get into the appropriate sleep cycles
Hmm.
and whatnot. So trying to keep your circadian rhythm as consistent as possible is really what is going to get you the best result of sleep every night.
Yeah. I had this old high school hockey coach. I had a conversation about this just because, midterms can get very stressful. There's extra studying, finals also. And since hockey was a winter sport, we had midterms like right in the middle of our season. And if a lot of guys didn't perform well during those tests, you couldn't play hockey. You didn't make the grade, you couldn't play. He told me this story, like this old guy, or this, I'm sorry, this older player. So he was a guy from like, was it 1989 or something like that, whatever. And he coached him, and he would do this thing where he had a job, he played hockey, he went to school, and he did all of his homework. This kid was an honor student. But I was like, how does it work though? I don't understand that. And said when he got home, he would sleep for an hour and then do some homework, and then sleep for an hour and then do some homework, and then sleep for an hour and then go to work. And then he would go to school, and then he would go and sleep for an hour, go to practice, come home, sleep for an hour. And I was like,
Savage.
but how was he though? Was he an irritable guy? He was like, he made it work. I don't know how it was inexplainable. And I said, okay, I'm not sure if that's an old wives' tale. Not sure if that happens, but I'm like, it just sounds like he got the sleep that he needed. But the problem with that is there's different types of sleep that you need to get to stay healthy. I think that he got like the first type of sleep, which is like that initial, um, the light sleep, and then there's the deep sleep, and then there's REM. And
Right.
if you don't hit that REM target, um, for a certain amount of time for your week, effects will start to take place. So I was like, are you sure this guy didn't go like nuts one day? Like, did he miss practice at all? Like, did he need a full day of sleep? Because that's something that I would need after a while. And he was like, no, he was fine. That was the only sport that he played. And he said that he caught up with sleep, in the spring and in the fall, like before and after the season. I'm like, okay, doesn't make too much sense. And I said, all right, but that's not how I would personally like to live. I would hate that. That would be awful for me. So I wouldn't feel well rested or healthy. I wouldn't feel alert. I'd feel out of it all the time. So that
Right,
wouldn't
but
work for me.
what you're basically saying is what a lot of shift workers benefit from, which is short napping throughout the day or throughout the night, depending on what their shift work is like,
Yep.
because they have literally what is called this homeostatic sleep pressure buildup. So essentially, they're building up all of this lack of sleep, for a better way of explaining it, and it's going to decrease their alertness and it's going to decrease their circadian alertness. And that in turn is going to have them basically at risk for just screwing up whatever job they have. And it could
Yeah.
be really dangerous, especially for drivers. So I would always suggest that, in that kid's case, that wasn't necessarily shift work. He was just so all over the place with all of these different jobs that he just needed to take a quick 10-minute, whatever it may be, 30-minute nap. For me, I would do that. I would hit this point because, I'd travel to UConn, which is about an hour and 15 minutes from my house. Then I'd go to class. Then I'd have a tiny break. Then I'd have another class. Then I'd have to drive home. And all of that was happening before maybe 4 p.m. But still, that drive home was brutal. So I'd always just have to lay in my car, close my eyes, even if I didn't actually necessarily fall asleep for 10 minutes, close my eyes. This way, my ride home would not be miserable and dangerous.
Yeah, the old resting the eyes thing, which I do firmly believe it's better than nothing. If you need that, pull off to the side of the road, get off on an exit, pull off into some sort of a parking lot and just close your eyes for a little while. I've only been harassed by the police once, by the way, because it wasn't in the commuter lot. It was in the parking lot of a hotel, and they thought that like, I was being like I was like protesting the
Loitering.
hotel. Yeah,
Oh.
somebody from the hotel called and said, I don't know if they're protesting, but why would you sleep outside? Why can't you just pay for a room? So they didn't like that. And I'm like, okay, I understand that. I'm like, I just needed to catch a couple of Z's. I live in Stanford. I'm a college student. Here's my ID. I just needed to shut my eyes and then I just wanted to be close to the highway. So as soon as I woke up, I just wanted to go home. And he goes, oh, okay. Well, I guess they don't like you sleeping here. So just, pack it up and get out of here. I was like, okay, fine, whatever. I was like, but yeah, but it did help because as soon as I was woken up by the police, not only that shock would wake anybody up, but yeah, I did. I,
Oh,
I caught a
yeah.
good half an hour and it really did help. It helped so that I can get home so I can just get in my deep sleep, get my REM up.
Yeah, that is also
I agree with you.
possible. You wake up with an odd sleep inertia and you're like your alertness can actually decrease right after that nap, but it should come back with a little bit of time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I remember in college during when I was getting my
Yeah.
undergraduate
You wouldn't
degree.
wake up and put your car in drive.
Yeah, exactly. Like, all right, let's
All right,
fucking
let's go. Let's
go.
go.
But when I was in college, I took a psychology class, and the professor had said there is no such thing as catching up on sleep, and the reason being, so if you sleep 5 hours during the weekend, and then on Sunday night you get like 12 hours of sleep because
That was my Monday.
trying. That was actually my Monday too, not gonna lie. I
Sorry,
did it.
Doc. We do it anyway. We know we are not supposed to, but we do it anyway.
Exactly, because we're only human. You gotta have a little bit of balance, and I just could not get out of bed. But man, I felt like garbage. And that right there is my circadian rhythm. Like, no, you're better off just continuously sleeping 6 hours, add another, get to 7, 8, 9, whatever it may be. I mean, I'm not really going to build up to 9 hours of sleep, but it's basically a shock to the body when you go from spending a weekend only getting maybe 6 hours of sleep. And now all of a sudden you're like, 11, yeah, let's catch up, bitches. Not going to work.
And then again, how many people do you know would like walk in the kitchen the next morning in a party mode, being like, I got 9.5 last night. People brag about how much sleep they get. Like, oh, I got 8. Well, raise the roof. Let's go. Um, but yeah, I mean, I generally do. As I get older, I appreciate sleep more and more. What's
Then
funny about that is that like as adults get older, even though they need less sleep, like what is it, 4 to 6 is what they really need to maximize productivity or efficiency or whatever it is. But the younger that you are, you actually need more sleep, and people wonder why that is. So in school, you notice, like, for example, you like, I know that you had it in school where you had the surrounding kids, like you just see kids just taking naps throughout the day. Like they just get tired, whether if they're athletes, whether if they're honor students, whether if they try, whether if they have jobs, doesn't matter. There's always 1 or 2 kids just in their hoodies out like a light. I was one of them because I was an athlete. I was exhausted all the time, and I tried, in school. I wasn't an honor student, but I more than made the grade. Let's just put it that way. I was happy with my 2.7 in high school, 3.2 in college. That's fine. but I was just still tired all the time. I wanted to respect the teacher as much as I could, but I'm like, I'm sorry. I this subject sucks today, and it's not your fault. I just need some Z's. I'll take half credit or something. I don't care. I need sleep. This is way more important than y equals mx plus b right now. I don't give a shit about slopes. I'm out of here.
Well,
So
so you are sorry, were you done with the
no, that was pretty much it.
Okay, okay.
It just like the younger that you get, it seems like you need more sleep. Like look at babies, constantly napping, constantly sleeping, but always constantly waking up.
That just reminds me though. I had when I was an adjunct professor at Southern a couple of years ago, I
A
had
junk
a
professor, dude, you got to build yourself up. I'm tired of you tearing yourself down.
junk, man. I was just
You're a
junk.
junk professor, yo. You were trash.
I was ad junk.
Yeah, yeah.
But there was this kid in the class that the first week of school, so I had Tuesday, Thursday classes, and it was I think 1:50 in the afternoon. And this
Oh, pretty
kid, I
typical.
noticed by second first class it started happening. He was nodding out. Second class it happened. So when he was in, a pretty good stage of his eyes were shut and they weren't going to open for a little bit, I went up to his desk and I went and I just
Oh,
smacked the desk and
oh,
I was like, if you're going to sleep, get out of my class. It's rude, it's disrespectful, and if you're that tired, you should probably sleep more at night. And he
but
explained
they
himself
but they
and
that they don't want to mess up the attendance. It's like if you mark me here, I'll get
I'd
more
rather
sleep.
I'd rather you not be here.
Then just mark me here, and I'll go to my dorm room and I'll
No, I
sleep.
don't
Or
I
in
don't
my
take
case, my
attendance.
commuter car, because I had
Yeah.
one professor who had an issue with that, and I was like, I told you my schedule. It's not disrespect. It's just I can't keep my eyes open when we're talking about slopes.
So stay home, sleep, and if you have an issue with attending class, then that's a you problem and you're not going to do well in the class and pick a different
There
time.
it is.
That's it. Don't
Yeah.
I really think it is the most disrespectful thing ever. Just like spitting dip in class. Some kid was doing that too. I was like, "What the hell are you doing?"
University
I
of
mean,
Texas, they probably do it all the time. It's probably a part of class. They're probably sponsored by Skull.
don't be rude
I'd
to your
say
professors.
don't be a professor in Texas. There's that
Right.
balance. No, no, I totally agree with that. A lot of people are like, "What's this fucking dip? What's the big deal?" Like it's better than smoking cigarettes in class. People vape. What the fuck? Um, yeah, you're right though. There should be some form of respect. There's things like as a sub, I'm just like, dude, you want to do that? That's fine. I really don't care. But if you get caught, I'm gonna tell them that they kept it well hidden. So go ahead and take them. I don't care. Like security randomly pops their head in, and if they're caught, they're caught. And they look at me and I'm like, he got it well hidden. He got them, whatever. Told you, get out of here. You're done.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
But we're
don't know.
not here to talk about stupid ass children. No, I'm kidding. I
Yeah,
love kids, but
you're
I
right.
just I just don't like when they're rude in a school setting.
Yeah,
In
let's
any
get back to
case,
babies.
what are
Well, how,
what
how
are
come?
some of the
Yeah, I
you
was
want to
gonna
talk
say
about
with
babies? All right, go
well,
ahead.
yeah,
Let's talk
just
about babies.
I was on to like for
Do you think
example,
babies listen to this podcast?
I think so. Like
Okay,
adults with baby like
I'm just
attitudes,
being
yeah.
an ass.
No, that's fine. I think that babies are like, hang on a second, it's 2 o'clock on Tuesdays. I know what I'm doing. Forget that milk.
Absolutely. Good.
Um, no, I think that what is that? Like I have an idea, but this is something that I didn't really go over with my anatomy and physiology classes. The size of a human being, of course, infants are tiny, adults are big. So wouldn't you think that a human adult would need more sleep because they sustain more energy or they produce more energy? But a little tiny human being, it's like wouldn't they need less sleep? Why do they sleep all the freaking time? And then
So
I'm reminded they go through their circadian rhythm so much more faster and so much more often than adults. And that's why their sleep cycles are the way that they are, and adults move into more of a routine setting.
yes, that's true. And I don't know much about this topic either, so I can't say for certain, but I also think that it
Yeah.
has to do with the fact that we are way more active as younger adults. And so we have to, our physiological processes, like general processes of, all of our organs functioning and everything else, just take so much more out of us that we need more time because sleep at the end of the day is time for us to replenish, refuel, relax, um, a time to replete ATP, a time to basically just let everything kind of get back to homeostasis. And I think for an older adult who is not as active, who isn't exposed to as many things, may not require as much sleep. Again, I don't know much about it, but that would be my assumption. And to go off of that, something to keep in mind with adults and sleep is that adults typically report that they sleep 4, 5, 6 hours a night based on research. However, adults most common are the most common individuals to sleep throughout the day. They fall asleep while they watch TV. They're bored. So naturally, they sleep. They don't have hobbies. They sleep. They go outside, but then they're tired. They sleep. So they're also accumulating a decent amount of sleep throughout the day. And I can speak, even just for example, for my dad, who is 72. He sleeps and then he wonders why he doesn't sleep at night because he's taking all of these naps throughout the day. The thing that kills me the most is that he goes to the doctors and they say, okay, here's a sleeping pill.
Yep.
We're going to
The quick
prescribe you
fix.
medication.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I've had some experience with sleeping pills when needed it or something, whenever I have trouble sleeping, whenever I knock out my rhythm or whenever that happens. But that's something that I don't rely on. I treat it like coffee, except when I want to sleep, and I need it, if I have a really important day coming up or something like that, and and I need to maximize my performance in any way, like, and I know that I'm going to have a rough night of sleep, then yeah, I only take it when I need it. And that's why I emphasize the word need, because I don't like when people say I need my coffee every single day. And I'm like, no, you don't. You really don't. You don't need it every single day. I treat coffee if I need it. If I'm going for a long drive and I just woke up, then yes, I will take a coffee because it does help. So the thing about taking sleeping pills for me, when I do a little bit of research, is that it prevents you from hitting that deeper sleep, that REM. Um, you can sleep shallowly, but it's not the sleep that you need when you get to that level of just complete and utter rest.
Yeah, which
So
is also what happens with older adults. They spend more time in the earlier, lighter stages of sleep, which is giving them less time in the deep sleep stage, and also why older adults often wake up a lot throughout the night and have more, fragmented or uh less of a restful type of sleep.
yeah,
But
this is what younger people don't understand about old people. Why are they always cranky? Because they don't get their REM. There it is. They don't.
yeah,
They've already led very long lives, and right now they're leading very tough lives because they're dealing with a ton of stuff that you have no idea about. So I'm like you say, whenever I see a student disrespecting a teacher, it is infuriating. I also feel the same way about young people treating old people like trash just because they're old.
and
There
grumpy.
is this thing called ageism, and it never is spoken about. No, but and it's
Ageism, I like it.
but it's just like, oh, he's old, screw him. So
I love old people.
I'm a huge fan. They have so much wisdom. They're so much fun
Yeah,
to
they're
talk to.
great. I mean,
They're
there are
amazing.
there are the anomalies that are just complete straight assholes, but maybe they're the ones that
Yes.
aren't getting a lot of the deeper sleep,
Yeah. They're
and
like any
less restful.
section. Yeah, they're like any body of human beings. There's always going to be a bad few. There's always going to be a fantastic few. That's the bell curve. So the ones that I'm talking about, I love the similar patterns. I remember a comedian saying this one time: babies, they sleep constantly throughout the day, they spit up, they crap themselves. Adults, they don't do that. They have complete control, they sleep less. They're supposed to be the level-headed ones of the bunch. And then you go back to an old person and they're going back to sleeping all the time and throwing up and shitting all over themselves. And I'm like, you're right. That's the bell curve that a natural adult travels through. You go back down to having people change and all that stuff. Like, you go back to having people take care of you. So I'm like, talk about a life coming full circle. Old people, again, generally don't hit that REM sleep, and then they take tons of medication that prevent that from happening. Not even bringing up sleeping pills. It's other stuff that they have to take or what have you, and their extra vitamins and stuff that keep them up at night. It's terrible. It's god awful. Um, but it's important for them to get that healthy sleep. Any sleep that I consider with no help, like if you're touching upon sleeping pills, then I would include cannabis. I'd include weed. I would include alcohol. I would include things that they're called, like, they're known as depressants. So you would feel that, oh, if I do those, then I'm just going to have an easier time sleeping. And then what people don't know is you're not getting that REM. And I think that's the main topic of sleeping pills, from my point of view. And I'm
Absolutely.
going to
And
stop talking
also,
for a while.
no, you're good. And also, the main reason why hangovers are so terrible for some people, because alcohol leads to an increase in insulin levels and keeps them risen throughout the night, which doesn't allow for you to get into that deeper sleep. And it's really the lack of sleep that kills people when they drink a lot of alcohol, not necessarily the alcohol itself. If you're drinking an adequate amount of water, you're,
Mm-hmm.
flushing most of it out. But some of the some of the issues, health issues that are associated with a lack of sleep, which I think aren't really mentioned enough, aren't just mood disturbances or, feeling like shit, generally like shit throughout the day, but a lack of sleep can also lead to an increased risk for hypertension, which is high blood pressure, can
Mm-hmm.
also lead to diabetes, can also lead to obesity, can lead to depression, can lead to heart attacks, stroke, and it can also lead to making your weight loss journey very difficult. And all of this is because it's not just because, but predominantly because we have this imbalance in our HPA axis. So basically, our hypothalamus, which regulates hormone distribution and control, is altered, meaning your hormones are being altered. They aren't regulated properly when you lose a certain amount of sleep. And this can lead to a really big one that can lead to for example, diabetes or a lack of weight loss, things like that, is that it throws off your great old hunger hormones, so leptin and ghrelin, which regulate your feelings of satiety, so feeling full, and also your feelings of hunger. So, that right there is one serious effect of lack of sleep. Same with
Mm-hmm.
cortisol, your stress hormone. It actually, after a large amount of sleep deprivation, cortisol can decrease, and it can also decrease your, which is actually a bad thing when you're thinking about recovery, because with that being said, it can also lead to a decrease in your growth hormone. So,
HGH.
yeah, so this is really important for athletes as well. If you
There
are
you go.
trying to recover quicker or trying to have gains, plain and simple, lack of sleep is really going to hinder your gains.
Yeah,
And that's that.
very true. You're touching upon the brain now. Whenever
Yes.
you get proper sleep, I did pick up on some of the things about that. For example, the gray matter. Um, if The more time that you spend in REM, the more gray matter that you actually have. I think they were talking about the whatever the word for swelling is, but at the end of the day, um, the part that I did understand is that it opens up those pathways. It opens up those neural pathways so that you can actually secrete those hormones that you need either at the time or throughout your day. So that's one of the reasons why people feel clear. They have a clearer mindset. They don't feel lightheaded. If that gray matter is good and healthy in your brainstem, then that's basically the on ramp to all of those wonderful, beautiful things that happen to your body that make you feel great throughout the day. So if you don't get enough sleep, those pathways will not close, but they'll be narrowed. So you'll feel slower, you'll feel sluggish, you'll feel irritable, you'll feel anxious, you'll feel, not the way that you should when you feel well rested. So yeah, it all starts in the brain for sure.
Absolutely. And so, one, I wanted to bring up one more thing. Impaired glucose tolerance. That's also a really big thing that can occur with lack of sleep, in addition to having its effect on the brain and our hormone balance. And I was reading this article that said that 5 hours or less of sleep resulted in a 2.5 times likely increase in diet. So people who slept 5 hours or less had a twofold increase in their chance for acquiring diabetes compared to individuals that slept anywhere from 7 to 8 hours. So I think
Hmm.
that's a pretty significant difference right there. And that's just showing kind of what we talked about last week with the walking, that trying to regulate your glucose levels can actually lead to this improvement in your chance of acquiring diabetes, amongst many other
That's right.
things.
Hmm. Yeah, there was a scene in I don't mean to get off topic just for a second, but it'll lead into
Do
something
it.
that we wanted
Please
to talk
do it.
about.
I'm sweating. No AC in
It
here.
sucks outside
Big
today.
words.
I
What
don't
the
know if you didn't
hell?
hear my air conditioning compressor go off a few times. I hope that's not a big issue, but I can't. I'm not going to be able to do that. It's disgusting today, worse than it's ever been. But anywho, there's a scene in Saving Private Ryan where they ask about the sniper who falls asleep so quick. Like, how does he do it? How does he fall asleep that fast? As soon as his head hits the pack, I think that was the line. And then it was explained that um, it's the key is don't try to fall asleep. You have to think about something completely different. You have to try not to fall asleep. And I don't want to get into the scene too much. I'm going to bring it back to like what we wanted to talk about was the classic counting sheep thing. Like, why don't you just count sheep? You'll be fine. And now that it's become like this playful thing, there is actually science behind it. You're not counting sheep for the sake of, oh, you're just going to tire yourself out and just start falling asleep. It's the way that the brain is distracted from you trying to fall asleep. So when you're counting those sheep, however you're doing that, if you're however you picture them, if they're jumping over that fence or if they're in a big field and you're just trying to count them, however you do that, um, it does help you. It distracts yourself from trying to stay awake or trying to fall asleep. You're trying to count sheep, then your body will take care of itself and hopefully it'll just happen naturally. And then you mentioned a really funny thing about the Guinness World Records. You wanted to know something.
Yeah,
What was
so
it? Was it
I was super happy about the fact that Juggy was talking about counting sheep because it's very similar to something we've mentioned before, which is the or the counting. So, trying to a form of meditation to try and get your brain to
aha,
focus
okay.
and try and think about. So, we're counting sheep, and that's actually indirectly taking us away from all of our millions of thoughts that are clouding our brain at night. And with the number thing, it's a little bit different because it's more of a form of building awareness, mental awareness. So you count 1, 2, 3, your mind drifts, and then you try and get back to 4, 5, 6. With sheep, I'm thinking, okay, you're counting. I wonder what the world record is for the amount of sheep that someone has counted before bed. Like, I want to know how far people can get without being distracted. Because for me, if I'm doing numbers, I usually stick between 1 and 10. But one night, just for shits and giggles, I made it to 15. I just kept, or no, I'm sorry, I made it to 20. I just kept counting, and it took me to count up to the number 20 until I was distracted by a thought. So, we got to look it up. I wonder, you know,
That
maybe
would be a
someone out
funny
there,
lookup. Yeah, it's
or
like one night I got to 1,046 and I realized I have what's the opposite of narcolepsy? What's the one where they can't fall asleep? Insomnia. It's like they
yeah.
find out they have insomnia. It's like I kept going and I realized I have a problem. Because that is like some people actually have insomnia for several reasons. You could have like PTSD, you could just have extreme high anxiety, um, and that causes some serious problems. That's going to be very difficult to get into a relaxed state and catch your REM and catch your deep sleep and catch all those levels. Um, do you think have you ever heard of somebody saying like, oh, if you're having trouble sleeping, just take either a short glass of milk or some form of milk and heating it up and putting it in the microwave for like 30 seconds? Get yourself a glass of warm milk. You'll pass right out. You never heard that before?
I've actually never heard that.
Yeah.
I've heard people
Old
say,
wives' tale stuff.
yeah, I've heard people say something similar, like, I don't know, for some reason I feel like people have said get a glass of water maybe.
Yeah. And
But
some people even say like, oh,
warm milk
yeah.
is
What so
what you're
people say
saying.
it's like warm milk, and I'm going, what is going on there? And I never really quite understood. I'm like, I don't like, what's the big deal? Why warm milk? I personally don't like warm milk. I'm a cereal guy. I like my milk cold. So why would I do that? It just
I
sounds
love
weird.
milk. Cold milk is my shit. Like, I wake up from being hungover and I drink cold milk, and it is the most refreshing thing ever.
Yeah.
But
If you want to be rejuvenated after a run or like a really long walk on a hot day, just get a little bit of just a touch, just a little bit of chocolate in there. It's a good rejuvenator,
yeah,
but only on the
well,
days where you're feeling draggy. But yeah,
maybe
the
because
warm
warm
milk.
milk is, maybe it's the comforting factor, so it helps people remember, or more nurturing, when we were babies and we drank warm milk. Maybe it
Oh,
gives
okay.
us,
Okay.
that's a totally wild guess, probably
Yeah.
pretty far fetched,
Yeah, but
but
that's better than I thought. I didn't even think of that. Um, yeah, and again, it probably brings you back to a mental state that you're a baby and you just need to sleep and you have milk in your belly or something. That's better than me just thinking like, well, what's the deal with that? And I'm not giving really much thought to it. That's a great thought actually.
but
So
here's the
it's more
caveat to
educated
that.
than
Milk actually is a pretty potent insulin stimulator. So why would you want to, because yes, there's fat in milk, but also um it still increases your blood sugar levels, which increases your insulin levels. So people always say, this brings in a pretty in-depth, it can lead to an in-depth conversation, but just to touch the surface on it, people always have this argument, should I eat late at night? Oh, it's bad to eat late at night. The reason why it is not necessarily a good thing to eat close to bedtime isn't because of the fact that it alters your digestion or it takes a while to digest. I would really focus on the fact that it does alter your sleep, because not only does it slightly raise your blood pressure, which can persist for a while into your sleep, but the fact of the whole insulin secretion thing. So if you're increasing your blood sugar right before bed, it's not an ideal situation. I
yeah,
would
your heart
recommend
rate gets
instead,
risen. Yeah, your body temperature rises. Your thermogenics start to rise. Like you're trying to keep everything down,
right.
not
So
increase
so here's an
in
alternative.
that sense.
So we're going to now end this all with talking about how we can improve our sleep habits, right? So here's one thing right here. Instead of saying, oh, I can't eat anything in your bed, and starving or feeling like you starve yourself. I mean, realistically, you're not starving yourself if you don't eat anything after dinner. But here's an alternative. If you do decide to eat something before bed, make it something a little bit higher in fat. This way, you aren't necessarily spiking your insulin, your blood glucose to a significant degree, and it wouldn't really interfere with your sleep all that much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it. I
So what
like to sleep.
else? What else? Do you have anything that you do, Juggy, before bed that helps you sleep? Any sleep
Um,
rituals?
Sometimes, I mean, especially if I'm in the middle of those, the very long days and the doubles and the shifts that are back to back. For me personally, stretching. I do a lot of decent stretching, especially my legs and my hips, and you know, um, I do that in the bed. Um, but I should do some of those stretches outside of the bed, but I just want to be in there. As soon as I roll
I do
over,
that.
I'm just done, as opposed to being like, let me push against the wall or for my calves or something like that. I just try to do everything in bed so that when I hold, um, like when I reach and hold, and I do my counts, you're trying to get a good balanced stretch throughout your body. I usually count to like between 15 and 20. And then counting usually starts to get me tired. And I'm like,
Absolutely.
I'm not counting sheep. I'm just counting seconds that I'm holding and
Yes,
reaching
but
and holding. So
and focus. So
technically two things.
you're focusing on one thing too. And that's the only time that I really condone, or that I really think that static stretching could be useful. I don't think that
Yeah.
it's useful from a performance perspective or mobility perspective, but I do static stretch right before
Just
bed because it's
makes me
so
feel good.
calming.
Yeah.
You breathe, it's mind body. It's like doing yoga right before you go to bed and getting in tune with your body. You can also do that while you're just laying there and focusing on each part of your body. So it's called body scanning. Again, it's a form of meditation, but you can start at your feet and basically just think about your feet, as weird as that sounds.
It's
I
true.
hate feet,
Grab
but
those
start
toes.
at your feet and then move on to your calves. And like as I'm talking about it, I'm closing my eyes and thinking about my calves. But
Yeah,
so just
exactly. Yeah. I'm just
another.
focusing on my heel right now.
Ooh, that hurts.
Yeah, exactly. I like it though. I like it.
So
It just at the end of those days too as well. Like to bring it all the way back to my original story. That Sunday night, um, I got this like surf and turf thing. As my double meal, like we're allowed a free meal if we work a double. So I took my meal to go, and I got the
so
surf and
be a
turf.
slave and then you get a free meal.
Pretty much, yeah. Like that was the benefit of working for, two shifts in a row. And I always argue the fact, like, well, I worked last night and this morning, so isn't that technically a double? They're like, no, we close the restaurant between. I'm like, oh fuck you guys. So
Should have
anyway,
get a free
got this
meal.
surf and turf thing that was wildly outpriced. Whatever. There was like a big like steak strip, and they had like two giant prawns in there. And I didn't eat the prawns because I ordered it around like 9, like right before the kitchen closed, and then I didn't get home until about 12:30, like close to
Oof,
1 o'clock, and that's like no, that's
sketch.
4 hours of lobster sitting there. No thanks. But the steak though, I reheated that. Oh my god, I felt like I was getting like a ton of protein in my bloodstream, and just I was in repair mode for Monday. That's really how I truly felt. And then I actually
That
had a chicken burrito for lunch, and I split that up into my dinner. So I was just getting all the protein that I needed, and I just stayed still as much as I could for Monday. I didn't want to move.
yeah, that amino acid, that pre-bed amino acid coma.
Yeah,
At least
exactly.
you weren't eating a banana before bed.
No, 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 no. That's morning stuff. That's juvenating, not rejuvenating food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, meditation, we've said another thing is trying to avoid blue light. We know that's
Yeah.
also been becoming a pretty popular thing with people getting their blue light glasses also, or it cancels out the blue light, but also you have these wonderful things on your laptop, on your phone. People look at my laptop and they're like, why the hell is your screen in yellow? I'm like, wow, I'm not going to talk about it because. And then I end up telling them, I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm a loser that gets rid of my blue light, but I also probably sleep 10 times better than you, so fuck off.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I do it on my phone.
Yeah.
I do
Well, that's
also have blue light glasses, which you could get for very cheap if you don't need the prescription with them.
yeah. Well, blue light, I'm assuming now, when you're talking about to get sleep, your eyes should be closed. I mean, I don't want to get into the people who can sleep with their eyes open. I don't have enough research or understanding how that works, so I'm not going to talk about that. I know that it exists and it's weird to me, but um, when it comes to getting that proper sleep, and when you close your eyes, that light comes through your eyelids. And if it's like a white light, if it's a blue light, if it's a bright light, your your eyes and your pupils stay dilated, and that's going to have a world of issues trying to fall asleep. So that light should be dark, it should be non-blue, and that will help with your pupil dilation, which actually helps you fall asleep. And I know that there's some chemicals here that it's escaping my mind at the second, but
Yeah,
um,
so
it increases levels.
that's a very good description. So essentially what's happening when you are exposed to any type of light, it is going to suppress the secretion of melatonin, which is I think what you were
Excuse
trying
me.
to get at. So it suppresses your secretion of melatonin, which is a hormone that is responsible for influencing your circadian rhythm.
That's the one.
And it is very shocking how much or how little blue light can actually disturb this hormone or the
Yep.
secretion of this hormone. Even like there was one point, this is going to sound a little bit crazy, but I'm just crazy. So I used to tape on the I would put black electrical tape on my cable box because even that light was enough to disturb even if your eyes are closed. It's a real thing. And if you're sitting
Yep.
in bed and you're watching TV, I'm not going to tell you don't watch TV, but go to your settings, turn up the I think it's black light. And so it's just going to make your screen a little bit less bright, but it will really help improve your sleep.
That's one of the reasons why I miss one of my old TVs. It was a Sony, my favorite TV that I've ever had. It's called a Sony Vega. It was 32 inches. It was the heaviest thing ever. It was a flat screen, but it was still like this big.
At least it was a flat
Like,
screen.
yeah, the front was flat, but then like there was this much TV. Like it was the earliest versions of a flat screen was still a huge cube. Anyway, they had these settings, and you had up to four customized settings. You could just tap, the screen and how you want it to be. And the last one that I would have, it was at its darkest setting. You could barely see anything, and I labeled it just sleep. And then
Okay.
right there, and then I would have that, like I'd have some form of noise. We haven't really talked about sounds or like soundscape or ambiance or people. There are certain people who like different sounds, like the rain falling or forests or wind or even traffic and being in the middle of a city. Some people are, that's where they feel like they're home and they're relaxed. So it really makes me very interested to hear, the different types of sounds. Or like, it's very oriental, but like when somebody takes the bottom of a bell and they ring the bottom, it's that, like, that siren-y sound, things like that. I'm just like, oh man, some of them work for me. Some of them, like the compression of an air conditioner, for example. I grew up with
A
that
lot of
thing.
people love that, or a fan, just the fan
Yeah, a
blowing.
hot day in a cold room with an air conditioner, for me, I find the easiest way that I can
Yeah, so
sleep,
it's
because that
another,
that compression kicks in and I'm out.
and it's also another form of a distraction.
Yeah.
Maybe for some people the the sound of the fan works. For me, I do like that. I'll alternate between the sound of the fan. I also alternate between sleep casts. So it's basically a podcast, but it's a man putting, or you could have a woman, I suppose, telling you a bedtime story. And I really like listening to that. And I've done it for probably a year now. And I've never fully listened to a story that this man has said. But
Mm-hmm.
puts me to bed. His voice, there's ambiance music in the background, and you can get those for free. I'm sure you can YouTube it, but I use Headspace, which is also my meditation app. And I have a white noise machine that also has this lullaby sound that I really like, or, like you were mentioning, the classic white noise or rainforest sounds. I like to switch it up. I don't like to, there was a point where I was listening to this same thing every single night. And I remembered I stopped listening to it for like 2 months. I went back to it and I feel like I had nightmares. I was like, I can't listen to
There
that again. So I think it
you
is
go.
good. You can also listen to chimes. So if you go to YouTube and type in sleep time brainwaves, the
Brainwaves, good call.
yeah,
I'm a big fan.
the chimes that are in these sounds actually stimulate different parts of your brain,
Mm-hmm.
and they've been studied. Putting by doing brain studies. I'm not going to get into that because I don't know a lot about the brain, but
Yeah, it's a little off my radar as well, but
yeah,
I have
actually
also heard that it helps.
studying how the music triggers different parts of the brain is very, very interesting.
Yeah.
And yeah, music, that's good.
Yeah. Do you think that, like, babies listening to like Mozart and Beethoven, do you really think that there's a connection with intellectual capacity, or do you think that babies
Absolutely.
will be, yeah, just because they can identify certain different types, because there's so many different types of instruments that they can have selective hearing? And because
Yeah, or
I
maybe
do, that music is so layered.
yeah, maybe even just with being a more relaxed child too. When the mom has plays the music while their child is still in their womb and all of those types of things, whether it's classical music or whatever. I don't really, again, that's not an area that I've looked into a lot, but I
Yeah,
definitely think it is very, very interesting productive environment, right? I mean,
I agree. I agree.
another big thing, I don't know if you've ever gotten into this, but using essential oils. So using lavender, I did mention
Like
this
for
in one of our
aroma.
episodes, yeah, but
Okay.
also using something like lavender in your oil diffuser. Oil diffusers are very cheap. Just make sure that you keep them clean. If you do get them, I would clean them out with something like peroxide and or alcohol swabs. But the aside from being a clean person, well, you just don't want to be. It's like when
Just
you
be
have a
clean.
dehumidifier that you haven't cleaned in three
Get better
years.
sleep if
That's
you're clean.
gross. Yeah,
Take a
just put
shower every once in a
water where
while.
as long. Nasty ass. Yeah,
Yeah.
just put throw some lavender in there and that'll help you sleep and you're going to start experimenting with some wild dreams. At least from my experience, I've had extremely vivid dreams when I use certain oils, and I've heard similar things from other guinea pigs that I've made do it because I'm just curious if it's me or if it's something in the oils that triggers certain parts of the brain or maybe even just gets you into a different sleep cycle. So yeah,
Think you're having these
little
wild
oils.
dreams because it's not oils. You're smoking wax. You're smoking wax. You
Actually,
just
that's
call it oils. Yeah. You cook it in
not a
KB
bad
oil.
point.
That's the real oil that makes people pass out. Somebody
I
once told me that like indica, like, oh, if I have a sativa, I can't sleep, but indicas will they'll make me pass right out. And I'm like,
into couch.
yeah, exactly, exactly. You just
All that
pass
stuff,
out.
all of
And I'm
that
like, well,
stuff
it doesn't
makes
hit
me
your REM.
so all of that stuff makes me so hyperactive, but some people do swear that they get a really great night's sleep when they smoke before bed, but I can't do
Yeah.
that.
If again, as long as it's an indica, like a sativa will get your body and mind not racing, but a little bit more active and focused with a good body high. But indica like will shut your brain down. Basically, like that's what some people tell me. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I just do whatever as long as I'm not doing anything in the next few hours. I don't mind.
Yeah, you'll
Um,
experiment with it.
yeah, I mean, just yes, this is as long as it's not like don't have it last the whole weekend. Sure, I don't
Yeah,
mind.
exactly.
Um, but yeah, it's something that goes along with it. But again, any kind of help that you're getting, like I've said before, with I just firmly believe that if you're doing any pills or something like that, or if you're doing any um, again alcohol or cannabis or something like that, you know, I wouldn't I wouldn't make it a habit. That's literally habit developing. It's habit forming. So let's try not to do that. The
And
only time that I really
dependence.
need it, if I feel like I'm getting sick or something like that, then yeah, I'll take a sleeping pill just because I'm gonna need that sleep, and the more I sleep, the healthier that I'll feel, and then I can get through my sickness a lot faster and a lot more effective and a lot more efficient than I did, if that happens. But if you can avoid them, go ahead and do that.
Yeah,
Excuse me, go ahead and do that.
and I think before even trying one of those pills, I would try melatonin. And I know a lot of people say, oh, that
Mm,
doesn't work for me. But if you haven't tried that first, try that and then include some of these other different things and maybe even track your sleep a little bit with a diary. Not everyone wants to put in effort to their sleep, they want a quick fix. So that's why a lot of people will go to just using a sleeping pill. But I mean, these things really aren't requiring you to do much. You can easily buy a pair of blue light glasses and just throw them on your face. That takes really no effort. It takes one trip to the store. You can easily press a button and let some music play in the background of your sleep. So just trying to make simple little changes at least before you try a pill that you may become dependent on for the rest of your life and
yeah, you got to
you
be
don't
very
know.
careful with that.
Yeah, you don't know what's in it. You don't know the alternative effects of that drug or whatever it may be. So try and stay away from it and try and take the more holistic approach if you can.
Yeah,
Some lullabies rolling at night, guys. Come on.
yeah, you got to make sure that
Maybe
you
even a
have.
glass of warm milk.
Yeah, get yourself a glass of warm milk. Make sure that you do some stretching and make sure that you're going to go ahead and have a good night's sleep, because that's what we're looking for, people with some good night sleeps. Whatever you need, if it's elevator music, some jazz flute, whatever you need to get yourself lullabying and swooning throughout the night.
Swooning. I love it. So let's wrap it up there. Episode 18. Let's end it with some beautiful elevator music. Remember all of the deleterious health effects that can come with a lack of sleep. So try and increase your sleep or decrease all of these negative habits that you may have indulged in before going to bed.
I like it.
Juggy, what you
Keep up
got?
the good habits.
Jugs.
Keep down the bad habits. Keep up the good habits by following me on Twitch and YouTube at Juggy010. Follow me on Twitter at JuggyHaha. We're going to keep up some more episodes here. I'm enjoying the crap out of this. So I'm going to keep this thing going. It's nice.
This makes me want to go take a nap now.
I was going to
All
say,
right.
I was rubbing my eyes a few times. I'm like, we have been talking about sleep for just over an hour. So
it's
yeah,
about time.
I'm like,
All right.
what are
So
you gonna do after the show?
about to take a nap. Make sure you guys hit the subscription button if you guys are enjoying our YouTube channel. Hit the like button if you like our videos, and we will be here to provide you with all the bullshit we want. We will see you next week. Follow me on Instagram. My name is Laura. You know who
We're
I
trying to
am,
help you out, so
hopefully.
help each other out.
Yay. All right. See you guys next week.